a lot of people know about woke and things we don't like. Lots of people don't like the idea that trans women are women. You know, we've seen a lot of woke culture. But I think what was less known about are the institutions and funding, crucially, that keeps these ideas in place. That's why they're so hard to get rid of. That's why they can't be defeated by the battle of ideas. And the first time I really stumbled upon this was in 2023. I just started working in news journalism, writing about it, and I was looking at some research into non-binary studies at universities, and I was digging around and I looked into the profile of one of the researchers, and they'd worked on a project about pregnant men, and I saw a number next to the page and it said £500,000. And I now know that it was even more than that. It was actually close to 700,000, the amount spent on this pregnant man project. And I saw underneath it said ESRC. And I thought, what's that? What's this money about? And that stands for, I now know, a few Google searches later, it's the Economic and Social Research Council. It's taxpayer funded, and it comes down from central government, basically comes down a nice little umbrella, you know, subsidiaries into the pregnant man study. And that was really the beginning of woke waste. That was a huge rabbit hole. And it began with me, the place I was when I found this pregnant man study was the website of something called the UK Research and Innovation. It gets just under 9 billion a year from the government, so taxpayer funds. And it has 9 research councils. I mean, the main thing to say is it's an umbrella organisation, and it channels all its funds down into these secondary organisations, and the money just keeps getting channeled. And they are very, very mixed bag. You know, you've got more serious science. And so just a caveat that I do not think the whole UKRI is completely terrible, but they have specific awful ones. The Economic Social Research Council is pretty bad. The Arts and Humanities Research Council, I'm sure we may touch on that more a bit in this podcast, but that is absolute woke galore. So when I was on the UKRI website, I just came across an absolute treasure trove of, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I knew, you know, I had no idea, and I knew voters had no idea. So I just began putting these onto Twitter, and it started to really build the traction. Everyone was in disbelief, saying, what the hell, you know?
Yes.
And it's kept me going ever since. You know, it's been good Substack content, to put it, be honest, you know, because no one's covered it, and it's something that really needs to be covered.
Quite.
So that was the foundations of woke waste, and it's mammoth. I haven't stopped since, essentially.
So just before we dig into some of the absurdities that you've uncovered, you've got this umbrella organisation, UKRI. They're getting their money directly from central government. Do we know how it's allocated by central government? Do they quite literally say this is for UKRI?
Yeah, it's the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. And that's run at the moment by Peter Kyle, who today accused Nigel Farage. He said that the online people that didn't side with the online harms bill were sticking up for predators, essentially. But I mean, when you look at some of the stuff so he's in charge of that department. What he said about Farage this morning was that he was on the side of Jimmy Savile. The American audience might not know, but this is a famous sexual predator, paedophile predator at the BBC for decades, and this is because he believes the Online Safety Act is to protect children. And it might be the case that they're saying that, but it's also the case that they have various stipulations where if you speak out against or illegal immigration, there could be a special force coming. So there's several aspects to the Online Safety Act, which includes censoring adults, nothing to do with children. Anyway, he's accused Farage of being on this side of predators. And I would say, as a side note, it's quite interesting that
when Savile was working, who was chief prosecutor at the Crown Prosecution Services, was Sir Keir Starmer. So anyway, that's a side story, I think, a little bit, but just worth clarifying for any Americans and others listening to this story. So this comes from the Department of Science,
Innovation and Technology, and then what they say is, you're the experts, UKRI. We want to invest in research and innovation. Here's a big lump of money, and you decide best how to spend it. And the government doesn't get involved, really. There's something called Haldane principles. That's something the government adheres to, and I think that essentially is quite simply the idea that the academic experts know better. But
what's that principle called?
The Haldane principle.
Okay.
And that's the idea. That's why ministers can never get too involved once the funding's gone to UKRI.
Okay.
Because they're meant to, that these people in charge of these quangos are meant to be the experts on what to spend money on. But once you dig into particularly Arts and Humanities Research Council, it's so egregious what it spends money on that.
Yeah, so let's go into the Arts and Humanities Research Council. This is what caught my eye, and it's really, quite stupendous, some of it. If I might read a couple of the things that I just found utterly astonishing. Communication and creativity, an arts-based study focusing on marginalised East African communities in Kenya, Uganda and the United Kingdom. We're spending £850,000 on that. There's a Centre for Cultural Value, whatever that is, £2 million. Mongolian Cosmopolitan Heritage, tracing divergent healing practices across the Mongolian-Chinese border, £800,000. So this is British taxpayer money spent on... we'll go into more. That's just the surface. So this is the Arts and Humanities Research Council. Right. So what can you tell me about this group?
So there's quite a few people managing it. I haven't actually gone into that. There's just so much to get into that I haven't even started with looking into who the...
Okay.
One of them did block me. That I get blocked by lots of state-funded people. But they're all just blobs. They've got people managing them, the experts, they write lots of positive stuff about their quango. But then when you actually see what it funds, and the one that I always bring up because no one ever forgets it, is the Europe That Gay Porn built, 1945 to 2000, £840,000. And this is currently going on. It's being conducted by a Portuguese researcher who is based in Sweden, and his argument for being in Sweden it's my project is about the Europe that gay porn built. Therefore, I'm doing groundwork in Sweden. And I saw on his Twitter feed that he voted in Swedish elections. So why are we funding him? So this Arts and Humanities Research Council, when you look on the website at these things and see what they say, they all pretend to be very serious organisations, investing your money in science and innovation. Then when you actually look at the reality, and this guy, the gay porn researcher, I worked out he had around £1 million in taxpayers' money, and his other study was into gay pig masculinities. And he and basically about
masculinities.
Yeah, it's
gay pig masculinities.
Yeah, and the abstract even contains the expression stretching of the anal sphincter, and it talks about grinder and like condomless penetration, and he got taxpayer funding for this. This is on a government portal, and what the woke element of these projects, the problem with them is especially when I first started criticizing them, people say, the people trying to defend this grotesque industry of waste will say, you've got a problem with this guy, he's gay. Is that an issue for you with his research? And it's not that, it's gay porn research. Like, why is he doing? And also you realise that these identities, right, you would not get straight porn research. Not that I'm crying out for £840,000, because it's the identity politics and the sort of woke angle on projects going for minority issues that gets it the funding in the first place. So the whole academia is structured towards want to say this carefully because I'm not equating these identities with leftism, but the more minority identities, the more gravitating towards.
I think you're generalizing about.
I'm just trying to say that that the identity politics makes it woke. That the obsession with identity.
Quite, that's how I understood it.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.